Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace. One more day here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Hopefully, we're going to beat this weather front home here right after the show. I'm going to bounce literally after the show ends. Todd and Aaron back there in Des Moines. Todd Erzin, Aaron McIntyre, hello to you. Hello to our good friend Steve Friend, who's going to be joining us here for the Deace Group in a moment. But Todd and Aaron are going to hunker down and do the overtime for you guys so that hopefully I can get out of here before that weather hits. And that's a good reminder. You know, I've been watching some of these weather forecasts all over the country for this first massive winter storm of 2026. And there are literally major urban mayors coming out and saying, warning their citizens, forecast are anywhere between 3 and 13 inches. Between no ice and 2 inches of ice. All right, this thing's all over the place. No one really knows where it's going to go, how bad it is going to be. All right, I just know when I get home to Iowa, it's going to be 50 degrees colder than it was here in Washington, D.C. yesterday. So another great reminder about why you want to check out our friends over at Jace Medical. You just never know when that could never happens here, right? I don't know what the latest forecast is, but I know like Nashville was looking at a half a foot of snow, if not more. All right. So folks, make sure you take advantage of all the various preparedness items they have there at Jace Medical, starting with the OG, the Jace case of venerable medications, some of the most famous in human history that could, you never know, one day be on the hook for being, horse serum and not a real medicine. And by the way, you can get customizable options for things like ivermectin and add it on to your Jace case as well. So get a discount today when you go to Jace.com. Use the promo code Deace. That's Jace.com at JASE. Use the promo code DEACE at JASE.com. Well, next hour, of course, it'll be your turn on a Feedback Friday, but let's begin this puppy as we always do with the Deace Group. Your weekly look at the week that was. Hello there, Mr. Steve Friend. Thank you for joining us again for the Deace Group. You've been in here enough, brother. You know the routine. It begins as it always does with issue 1. Bleep. Lord Nefarious says.
Please place your left hand on the Quran, raise your right hand, and repeat after me.
The U.S. goddamn states.
Do you believe Christianity to be more true than other religions?
I believe Christianity points to the truth. I also think other religions of love point to the same truth.
These are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing.
You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? You drink your coffee, you got your jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do? Living real comfortable while the people starve. Living real comfortable while children are dragged into concentration camps.
Watch this guy here. Look, he's hugging his kid. I just imagine it's uncomfortable and traumatic. That's what protesting is about, is to make people uncomfortable. You may not like it.
Do you believe it was a step too far for protesters to go into a church?
I don't. I think that when they find out that someone that's supposed to be speaking for the community in church is found out to be an ICE, like a federal agent that is running ICE in their communities, they have the right to go in there.
I think people who are, in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice, but I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement comes from a supremacy.
So, Pam Bondi, you want to come and arrest me? You want to come and give me charges? So be it.
A white supremacy.
Agenda of white nationalism and might makes right. We now have a war on our streets.
I think, equality feels much like oppression when you have always had the privilege of being ahead, even if you were mediocre.
They were trying to set up a process that will allow this country to return to what it was in 1876.
Masked men. Guy Greg Bavino, dressed up. It's as if he literally went on eBay and purchased SS garb.
To any ICE agent that thinks they're gonna come into my home and terrorize me and my family, you will be met with lethal force. I will kill on sight.
They're going to lose their immunity. They're not going to be able to drive. I will take your driver's license. Good luck walking to work, assholes. Also, I will direct law enforcement to use every power to prosecute them for battery, false imprisonment, and murder.
If we have another civil war, all the blue states will control all the fresh water.
And I've learned more about my tradition by learning more about Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam and Judaism.
What happens to a religion of the book when the greatest expert on the holy book is an AI?
I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
China is welcome, but what we need is more Chinese foreign direct investment in Europe.
By the leadership of President Xi Jinping and the speed with which our relationship has progressed in recent months. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
I should have brought up a bunch of knee pads.
I'll be honest, it feels incredible.
Yeah.
You know, this is the dream of a lifetime.
That's one of the worst we've ever had. That is absolutely. And just to give you guys, watching at home or listening, while you're working out or traveling, a little inside baseball. When I'm on the road, the way, and I have no idea why. Maybe Aaron, if we were bored one day,
I have no idea why.
You don't know either.
No.
Okay, I can't get a music. On the return audio when I'm on the road, I don't hear anything with music in it. Only words. So I don't have the haunting tubular bells from The Exorcist even in the background. I'm just getting this all dry, without any vibe at all. And holy moly! And I mean, my instant reaction to watching that is to quote the late great Andrew Breitbart: "War." So let's get to the first question, Steve Friend. What of the many horrors that you just witnessed has you the most considering self-harm, Steve?
Uncomfortable and traumatic. I believe that's a descriptor that Don Lemon used to describe the invasion into a house of worship. And let's set aside the legality of that, violative of the FACE Act. I think that part of the MAGA spirit of MAGA, I mean, not just taking over the government, it's reminiscent, it's sentimental for days of yore, days of future past, where the law of the jungle on the playground actually meant something. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you lined everybody up from a political perspective of total government on one end and anarchy on the other, I'm like 2 or 3 over from the anarchy guy. I do believe there's a place for government in a little, somewhat of a sense here. So the law of the jungle on the playground is if Timmy is beating up Jimmy because Jimmy is weak, well, that's when you go to the teacher if you need to, as the government, as the last resort. But first, we got to take matters into our own hands here. We need to have the law of the jungle because there's physical consequences for being a bully. Now, if Timmy is putting his finger into the test of Jimmy, then Jimmy is perfectly entitled to return fire and should not be punished. So to me, the most disturbing thing are those men within those pews who are sitting there silently, holier than thou, filled with niceness because they worship at the altar of hippie Jesus rather than the guy who turned over the tables. And they were unable to actually prevent a traumatic environment for their significant others or for their children.
That'll preach. Todd.
I'm absolutely with Steve on that. All the Reform Tough guys are there on X doing the heavy lifting over there, Steve. Here's Sonny Hostin. That's ABC, right? Isn't The View ABC?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
ABC, Disney, ESPN. There's no laugh track there. Again, talking about privilege, mediocrities, the fact that we're going to be talking about, a grade a year in on this show, but that's still planting its flag. It doesn't have any plans to go anywhere. It's just raw propaganda. And I think the fact that those kind of voices are as entrenched and as powerful as ever are a very, very bad portent for what is to come, because she is Legion. And I normally never comment on The View. I hate it, but it's bigger. That's Disney Entertainment. They're giving her and your kids you. And we've been talking about addictions to screens and things like that. She has way more influence than you are willing to give her credit for, you when you laugh at her and just call her stupid.
Aaron.
Everybody's making jokes about the dude in Ohio saying, if you show up to my house, ICE agents, you'll be met with lethal force, I should say. Making jokes about how his uncle is also his dad and this and that. He's no different than the guy who followed him in that clip, Eric Swalwell. They are one and the same. Threatening ICE agents, lack of immunity, this and that. You can call it political posturing all you want. The very fact that there are environments in this country where pick and choose any clip in that montage, people feel comfortable. They even feel obligated to say any of the things that you said, that you heard in that montage. I just go back to you just can't share a country with that. I would submit, notwithstanding the one person or two people, if you see the couple of individuals in the background who have already been arrested, every subject of every single clip in that montage should be arrested.
100%.
Because you just can't share a country with that. If it's not any clearer now, there's basically, when you get to this point, I don't know how much salvaging there is to do of the old system. And now you understand. When you see things like this, why the young men want to burn it all down for the sake of burning it all down, not necessarily to build something good up in its stead, but you understand that impulse. I'm just describing, I'm not necessarily prescribing, but you understand that impulse. And you understand what parts there are actually left to salvage. I come up to that line sometimes as well. So you can make all the fun you want about the woman saying, I would like to make sure that my political opponents don't have access to fresh water. I'd like to make sure that if ICE agents come to my house, I'm going to shoot them dead. You can make fun of that all you want, but as was already said, that impulse is legion.
Indeed, you cannot share a country with any of that. And if you think differently, it's telling you it will not share it with you. Share is a two-way street. Share is a social compact. It does not mean the same as inhabit the same landmass. Share denotes a requisite equivalent relationship of some means. Maybe the ratio is not perfectly egalitarian, but there's at least a ratio. You cannot share a country with any of that. And it has no plans on sharing it with you. There's a lot more I'd like to say about this. It kind of runs into what we're going to do, though, in the second topic. Gentlemen, I don't have an exit question after watching that. I mean, does anybody want to beg to differ that that's not a 10 on a scale there?
No.
But we just witnessed?
It's bad.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to topic 2, though, something good. We always love to highlight when we have new partners here on the show. And, one of the biggest lies in modern consumer culture is that all these natural personal care brands are, still small companies, but most of them were quietly bought out years ago by massive corporations and private equity firms that replace the real ingredients with those cheaper chemical substitutes you were thinking you were getting away from. So Van Man is going in the exact opposite direction. They're one of the companies that helped kick off the tallow movement. They've stayed committed to using real traditional ingredients instead of corporate filler. Their tallow balm is made from grass-fed tallow. There's a reason that matters. Those fatty acids in the tallow, they're nearly identical to the oils in your own skin that it naturally produces. So your body actually recognizes them instead of fighting it. And And you're going to notice the difference immediately because it absorbs better, lasts longer, doesn't leave you feeling coated in chemicals. And because there's no junk padding it out, a little goes a long way. So give your eyes the care they actually deserve. Go to vanman.shop/Deace and use the code Deace for 15% off your first order today. That's vanman.shop/Deace. Use the code Deace, my last name, for 15% off your first order today with Van Man. Real ingredients, no exceptions. vanman.shop/Deace. That's vanman.shop/Deace.
Steve, really quick,
Yes,
you
sir.
should have seen when you gave some of the products to me to bring home to my wife and daughters.
Oh, yeah. Forgot I let you guys sample those. You bet. Go ahead.
My senior daughter, just when she saw them, she goes, "You guys are sponsored by Van Man?" So
they knew right away that was a
absolutely
potent brand name.
It is a big deal.
Yeah, thank you for throwing that in. Appreciate that, brother. I forgot that I let you guys sample that stuff. All right, let's get to issue 2. Begun. The church wars have.
Minnesota is a strange place. Fewer than 10% of their 87 counties voted for Kamala Harris in the last election. Yet in those 8 counties that did, it's honestly surprising we haven't seen what happened on Sunday or something similar play out with more frequency.
All these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. Shame on you. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are your people? Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity, standing for our people? Where are you? You drink your coffee, you got your jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities? I'm not going to comment. You have no comment. Exactly.
So far, 3 individuals in the city's church riot have been arrested, 2 for conspiracy against rights, 1 for violation of the FACE Act. The DOJ attempted to charge former CNN anchor Don Lemon since he participated in the riot, but a magistrate judge, we're being told in the state, wouldn't sign off on a warrant.
All right. Since I put the rundown for this together, as Aaron noted, there have been a few arrests. So let me reframe the first question slightly from what you guys were originally given. Give us your grade of what has happened thus far, on top of then what should have already happened in response by our side thus far. And Steve, of course, this is right up your alley, man, as a former FBI agent. So we're going to start with you.
Well, just a little bit of context on what the FACE Act actually means and what it says, because a lot of people don't really understand it. It's 31, 32 years old, passed in the 90s, bipartisan support and an ultimate Republican betrayal because they had to give us the religious exemption, the free access to clinical entrances. There's part 2 and part 3 of that, which also says you're not allowed to interfere with a religious service and you're not allowed to vandalize a church. But it's been applied 96, 97% against pro-lifers, people like Eva Edel, 90-year-old concentration camp survivors praying outside of an abortion clinic. And then when she goes to trial, she can't show pictures of murdered babies in her own defense. Like, that's the way that the system has been set up. Now, I am pleased with the rapid response, almost like a January 6th-esque response from federal law enforcement in order to get these people. But the problem is, this never should have happened because over the last 12 months, our federal law enforcement apparatuses over at the DOJ and the FBI and every other one of those sub-agencies have basically just said, hold on, wait 6 to 8 months. These things take a long time. We've gotten no scalps of anything of any prominence, anything that we were promised in the election. And now the communists out there feeling their oats. They say, hey, there's not really any consequences. So the response from me, solid A. But I will issue the caveat, it should never have happened. They should have known that those actions would have been met with a rapid response because there was a precedent set in the prior year, the first year of the second Trump administration, where evildoers were sent to jail.
All right. So, Todd, you heard Steve's subject matter expert to witness a review here. What's your own, and how does what Steve had to say impact now what you think?
I think the fact that these arrests happen and the fact that the judge reacted the way that they did to Don Lemon, and we know the connections therein, is a a net positive. It only makes it more important that we ultimately arrest Don Lemon. That has to happen one way or the other. But the fact that they are now rearranging their deck chairs so fast is a good thing, because it exposes more. And as long as we have the will to follow through on it, which is, of course, the big question, I think there's just a lot of things that America is ultimately going to sign off on and give a thumbs up on. But right around the corner is just the weakness that young men are constantly sensing. So everybody is being weighed and measured. That's good to me. I want this to be Commodus thumbs up, thumbs down all the time, because we have existential issues of existential import here. Beyond those arrests, just what ICE is doing persistently, unapologetically, that's what gets me up to a B. Otherwise, I'd be somewhere in C land, because I just think the reality of the chaos and what we just did in the montage early on, most people are not getting up to speed on. Our entire civilization does hang in the balance.
So before I give some of my own thoughts, go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, so given that yesterday I was complaining first thing right out of the gate that when Bella and I went on our honeymoon, it was about 15 days after the events at the Capitol on January 6th, and we were in Florida, and we saw billboards with wanted posters, and I was completely, I just remembered this yesterday morning as I was waking up, and at that point, as I was waking up, we hadn't had arrest yet. I would give this like an A-, B+ range in terms of getting at least some arrests. And we're not talking about scalps here. Scalps is when, James O'Keefe Media Group, or Nick Shirley does a documentary, and, Tim Walz doesn't run for re-election because of that. That's a scalp. This is real accountability, at least we think. Hopefully, if we actually get some prison sentences, that's the next step. Let's not put the cart before the horse. It wouldn't surprise me in Minnesota. Steve would be a better expert at this as far as what happens next. It wouldn't be surprising to me if the charges are not airtight, but they're on video. I don't know how they couldn't be, that these people could get off with fines or something like that. But that's the next step. As far as where we are in this process, this is a solid B+, A-. And I do think it is reminiscent of the absolute rapid response. How am I from Iowa able to go to Florida just days after J6 and see wanted posters up all over the interstate highway system over there for wanted J6ers, and yet we were being told, well, this stuff takes a while, you just got to move at a snail's pace here. Well, it turns out they were moving a little bit faster than maybe, I'll just say, I thought that they were moving at. And it's not like I don't have good reason for that. But Steve brings up a good point. Steve Friend brings up a good point. Do we not, for now, a decade, whether it's Russiagate, whether it's the 2020 election, whether it's pick your narrative/scandal du jour, do we not have individuals on camera saying things that are completely different than what they say in front of Congress, or saying different things to different people? I know that in and of itself might not be criminal in nature, but there's enough prima facie evidence, no matter where you look, no matter what narrative or what scandal you want to look at. There's enough prima facie evidence, at least on one of these. Pick one of these, pick one of the 20 subjects on one of the 20 different narratives. There's nothing there, nothing. So I'm still very, very much displeased overall with this DOJ. But in this particular story, I think they did something that was clearing a low bar, but they cleared it well. And they cleared it with, I think, enough room.
Fantastic analysis by all three of you. And it's going to segue, actually, without you guys even necessarily knowing what I was going to say, it's going to segue to exactly what I wanted to bring up at the tail end of the montage, but save for this topic because there's a lot of carryover between those two issues. Listen, I've been doing this. This is going to be my 20th year. This is my 20th year working full-time in politics. Collectively, and I know it sounds crazy when I say this, okay? But collectively, as a base of people, we've never been further right than we are right now. And this is going to sound even crazier when I say this. Collectively, the Republican Party's never been further right than it is right now. The problem is that the other side But the problem is we're just now waking up. All right, we've been asleep. I mean, the stuff I can go on major media outlets on the right and say about trannies, I'd have never gotten, even when we were winning the gay marriage fight, guys, in previous eras, I'd have never gotten away of saying that about the rainbow jihad. Never. Which is why I didn't get invited on the shows to talk about it. It would have been considered counterproductive. It's how we'll lose. We don't want to look like haters. All right. We are beginning to, on the political side, we are waking up to truly the magnitude of what we are up against here. I see lots of evidence of that. But we have a problem. A political movement cannot sustain itself. A political movement, well, at least not righteously. Lots of political movements have attempted to sustain themselves throughout human history unrighteously. All right. But they eventually fall as well. And it's especially important given the nature of the founding of our country and the values it was founded on and what it was inspired by. The church must get out ahead of the political structures on the right. I'm going to tell you, let's do a thought experiment, gentlemen. Those guys attempt to walk into a Trump rally. They walk into a Trump rally, just start walking right through the middle of it, saying and doing all the same things at a Trump rally. What do you think happens?
They get roughed up.
Yep.
They get introduced to the fivefold ministry of the right hand of fellowship. Do they not? Does that not happen if they walk into a Trump rally and do that?
I don't know if this is what you're invoking, but this was, I think, late 2015, early 2016 in Chicago. We already saw Trump's Chicago rally. We've seen this for a decade.
Yeah. You think the MAGA people are letting their women and children run out of a Trump rally scared? Hell, the MAGA women are gonna put out their Pall Malls and start swinging purses. It's never happening. That's not, and you know what? That's a metaphor. Who is more likely to go protest Drag Queen Storytime Hour? The MAGA dude who listens to Cernovich all day with a sleeve tat or a tat sleeve, or the guy who's read all of Calvin's Institutes on the Institutes on the Christian Religion? Do you think? And Wayne Gruden's Systematic Theology. Who do you think it is?
Former 9 times out of 10.
9 times out of 10. That's not sustainable. I'm just telling you, it's not sustainable. And that church there got caught with its absolute knickers down. I'll give them grace for being ambushed, although I don't know. How do you get ambushed living in Minneapolis, being a church in Minneapolis all these years, preaching the word, seeing what's going on? You're not anticipating that at some point when the locusts are done consuming every other crop, they're going to now come for you. But okay, one time shame on me, but shame on you, but 2 times shame on the rest of us. That cannot happen anywhere again without immediate consequences. Now they need to be meek, under control. But the kinds of consequences that, when you were getting bullied back in the day, I had this happen to me once in high school. And I finally couldn't take it anymore and I fought back. And it turned out the other kid was kind of a wimp. And the gym teacher knew exactly what was going on, knew I was getting bullied, and let me fight back and prove my point. And then it was clear when I had a clear advantage over him, he broke us up. Thing was over. We were fine the rest of the school year. This is why there's fighting in hockey. What do they do in hockey? They let some haymakers get thrown. When it's clear one guy is on top of the other and can pummel him to death, that's when they break it up. The point's been made. Steve Friend is correct. There must be some law of the jungle. There must be. You have to have, any healthy human society needs some self-enforcement mechanism, some social stigmatization, some understanding that if I go here and break this social compact, there's not an orthodontist bill that I could possibly afford that I'm going to get away with. So I better not. And we're out of balance there. And that needs to be reestablished. Let's get to the exit question quickly. If the American church's level of preparedness for this moment were a Bob Seger song, which Bob Seger song would it be? A, Like a Rock. B, Beautiful Loser. C, Against the Wind. Todd, go, quick.
Against the Wind.
Steve, friend, go.
Beautiful Loser. They look like Pottery Barn and Taj Mahals, and there's just not a whole lot there.
Aaron.
Beautiful Loser.
That ain't going to cut it. That's just not going to cut it, guys. I mean, Trump's not going to be in office forever. Most of his supporters are older Americans. That's not going to cut it. All their answers are correct. That won't cut it. The church has to catch up to the enemy's level of radicalization and mobilization, or we're screwed.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show, here powered by Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. We're brought to you by our friends over at Select Quote. You know, for over 40 years, Select Quote's been one of the most trusted brokers in insurance, helping more than 2 million Americans secure over $700 billion with a B, $700 billion in coverage, and their mission is simple, to find you the right insurance policy for your unique needs. They shop and you save. Unlike other one-size-fits-all insurance companies, Select Quote's licensed agents, they work for you, and in as little as 15 minutes, they'll compare policies from top-rated carriers to find you the best fit for your health and for your budget. All right, so they work for you and for free. No medical exam, no problem. They partner with providers offering same-day coverage of up to $2 million without needing to visit a doctor. Maybe you've got a pre-existing condition like high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, or more. They find partners with policies designed for many of those such things and to get you the protection that you deserve. So get the right life insurance for you for less and save more than 50% at selectquote.com/Steve. That's selectquote.com/Steve. All right, welcome back in. Our friend Steve Friend here on the Deace Group, your weekly look at the week that was, marches on with issue 3, year 1.
Let's go back, shall we, to a little over 1 year ago with Trump's second inaugural address to the nation.
The golden age of America begins right now. Our recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal. From this moment on, America's decline is over. Those who wish to stop our cause have tried to take my freedom and indeed to take my life. But I felt then and believe even more so now that my life was saved for a reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. Today I will sign a series of historic executive orders. With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense. First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. Today, I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. Next, I will direct all members of my cabinet to marshal the vast powers at their disposal to defeat what was record inflation and rapidly bring down costs and prices. Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Something I know something about. This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier. America will reclaim its rightful place as the greatest, most powerful, most respected nation on earth, inspiring the awe and admiration of the entire world. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. If we work together, there is nothing we cannot do and no dream we cannot achieve. Many people thought it was impossible for me to stage such a historic political comeback. But as you see today, here I am. The American people have spoken.
So we are commemorating the inauguration of Trump 1 year ago this week, and that address, man, was a banger. That's one of the best, maybe the best inaugural address of my lifetime. And especially to just, I remember watching it in the moment, to just sit there and watch him just laying down ordnance on those people right to their faces. And of course, they moved it inside so they couldn't try to shoot him again. They blamed it on the weather, but we all know that's not true. So they moved it inside so they couldn't try to shoot him again. And so it's even in that confined Capitol Rotunda there, man, there's no escape. The acoustics are sound. I mean, he just was laying down ordnance and laid down markers. But now we are looking at the results. All right. So a year in, give us your grade for Trump year one and why. Aaron, I'll start with you.
So this all depends on your perspective, whether you're grading on a curve historically, I believe anyway, or whether you're grading on what is necessary and sufficient for the moment. If you're grading, if you take a longer view, you have to take the former grade. If you're grading on a shorter term view, you believe that this country really doesn't have time to do a massive march through the institutions, you're probably grading on a latter view. So I think I'm going to try to do something maybe based on my age. I'm a millennial. I'll be 30-something, 33 next month. I'm going to try to not take the immediate view, which would be the latter one, and I will grade on a curve based on what we've seen, what the Republican presidents, which is just one before Trump in my lifetime, based on what we've seen from Republicans in general and the one Republican president we've seen in my lifetime, and what I know the Republican Party is like leading up to this century. So I'm grading on a curve here. I'm giving him an A-. Because unilaterally, you hear what he kind of highlighted in that speech from his second inaugural address a year ago, the things that he's been able to unilaterally deliver on, notwithstanding one major blight, and that is the Department of Justice, but basically executively everything that he can deliver on unilaterally, and everything is a big word, I understand that, he's basically been able to do, even kind of funny details like the Gulf of Mexico. Now, is that sufficient? If you take the former grade or the latter grade that I laid out there, is that sufficient for the moment? Is the totality of year one sufficient for the moment? I think the answer is no, but I'm not grading using that scale. I'm grading on a curve based on the Republican Party as I've known it in my lifetime and the one Republican president that I've seen prior to Donald Trump. And I just think what he is doing and what he's trying to accomplish is definitely different. And I'd say, and I would make the argument, better overall than what we've seen from the Republican Party and the Republican president I've seen in my lifetime.
Interesting way to look at that from those two perspectives. Todd, what say you?
I grade this the same way we just talked about Minneapolis, so I'll give it a B. We're doing things that must be done, but also, and it's a challenging thing to do, but we're not truly embracing how bad the situation is. Right there at the end, Donald Trump talking about, I want to be peace and bring people together as a rhetorical point in that moment. I don't think that was out of bounds, but ultimately there's too much of that I think Donald Trump still believes to this day, even though they tried to shoot him in the head. It's unreconcilable. They don't want to do that. They want to kill us more. Steve has made this over and over and over again. Just at the top of the show, he did it. We are two different peoples, and we have to be utterly honest about that. So a B.
Mr. Friend, same to you.
Well, I'm also a millennial, but come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40, so I'm going to go with the
Nice
latter
reference.
option. I grade not on a scale, especially for somebody who's in their second term. Don't give me the but Kamala or Joe Biden. So I'm a pretty harsh professor when it comes to grading. Foreign policy, I'm a little bit out of my depth, but I do think the messaging has been rather poor, even if the reasoning for the decisions that was made was sound. When you're the peacetime president, no new wars, and then all of a sudden you're deposing a dictator or dropping bombs, I would have preferred to have more information coming forward from the administration. But again, out of my depth. Domestic, completely different story. And the big issues going into 2024 election, illegal aliens and deportations. we're on track to get like maybe 1 million of them out of the interior of the country. I'd like to see that ramped up even more. And then at the same time, I'm seeing Donald Trump get up and messaging how, maybe we need to lighten up and go after the worst offenders. Nope. At gunpoint, Trail of Tears style, march them down to the Rio Grande and then station an 18-year-old with testosterone and anger issues on top of a Humvee with a 50 cal to make sure nobody comes back in. On inflation, that was another huge issue for the election. I mean, inflation hasn't been cured as much as the stock market is doing gangbusters. The dollars going into that due to inflation, when there's too many dollars chasing too few goods until the dollars in your bank account become worth less and worth less until they become worthless. It's not really a genuine sign of economic strength. And a lot of that's tied to the government spending, where now the Biden level spending is considered to be the conservative standpoint. On healthcare, we're making the argument that Obamacare subsidies are conservative. And in order to make that deal, Donald Trump is encouraging their House Republicans to soften their stance on the Hyde Amendment. So we should murder more babies with federal dollars in order to get Obamacare through. And then to me, the biggest issue that I'm siloed in is in weaponization of our federal law enforcement apparatus, where Pam Bondi, Kash Patel have sacrificed a generational opportunity for us. They've stolen it from us to correct this action. They've done it with Epstein transparency issues. They failed to go after the government gangsters, as Kash Patel labeled them. And at the same time, Kash is jet setting around in a private jet, buying himself a BMW. So I'm not happy. I'm going to give the overall grade C-, and mostly because they gave a pardon to Steve Baker, my friend.
Let's get to the exit question. Predict what you anticipate your grade for year 2 will be 12 months from now. Steve.
I am fearful that with the impending midterms looking like it's going to be good for the Democrats, that Donald Trump will default to the art of the deal, and he'll just be happy to make deals, and he'll play for the Democrats in the hope that he won't get impeached. And I just will have people not come to my class, and I won't be able to actually issue a grade, so it'll be an incomplete rather than a letter grade.
All right. Aaron, what do you think?
I think it's probably going to be lower. It's probably going to be in the B- territory, C+, and I'm being optimistic, especially if the messaging, and we'll get into this in the next topic, especially if the messaging is not fixed, because often the messaging becomes policy, becomes malaise.
Yeah, what do you think, Todd?
For all the reasons Steve Friend said, a C.
Well, let's get to that kicker topic then. If you could unilaterally change one decision Trump made in his first year back in the White House, what would it be and why, Todd?
Bondi Patel, again, for all the reasons Steve Friend said, it's obvious.
Steve, I'm going to guess you're going to be somewhere in that ballpark as well?
Oh, I'm going to do some mental gymnastics to get 2 for 1 here, Steve, because we were supposed to fund the government mostly on tariffs, which would have necessitated a 90 to 95% reduction in government, and we could have started with defunding the FBI.
Aaron, what about you? I'm curious to get your answer since you just hinted at it.
So I think the messaging is, especially, we're 10, 15, we're over a decade into the Trump administration. The messaging, if you pay attention to everything, every little squirrel that Trump sends out there, you're going to drive yourself nuts. And believe me, I've gone up to that point a few times over the past decade or so. I think the messaging on the economy that has gotten better, and when I say better, it's like, well, I have toe fungus on 4 toes instead of 5, so that's better. When we come to a specific policy decision, I would say I would have probably done the Stephen Miran plan on tariffs because it was specifically tailored for China, and it would have put increasing pressure, building up pressure over time. Now, what they've done, the sun came up in the morning and it kept coming up, and who knows what the long-term ramifications of Trump's tariff policy will be, or whether or not the Supreme Court will actually let him keep doing this. But that's one thing. And then as I'm talking here, basically defy any of the judges. That probably would have been another one. So there, I gave you like 3 different things. Fix your messaging on the economy. I would have done the tariffs differently, and I would have just told the judges to pound sand day one.
I think I agree. Well, you guys all made great suggestions. You all did. But thank you, Aaron, for resetting the judge thing. And now I feel like we've missed a window. We had the political wind at our back, that we could have done that in the first few months. And picked a fight when the odds were ever more in our favor compared to where they are now. Now, when the public polling was better, more Republican members of Congress, like you would not have had a year ago 75 members of the Republican Party voting with Democrats on a spending bill. That wouldn't have happened a year ago. Or 58 voting with Democrats to keep a kill switch in your car. Okay. You wouldn't have had that a year ago at this time. And I think maybe I'll give an answer off the top rope that kind of encompasses maybe all of your answers. A better understanding of your political capital, how much you have, and when to use it. What do you think of that as an answer? Because that kind of encompasses, we're running short on time here, but that kind of encompasses all of your various big picture things you guys wanted to see done. A better understanding of your political capital and when you have it and how much of it you have, and pick one massive paradigm shifting fight and go in on that with that capital to try to make an example. That's the one thing that didn't happen. And I think all of your various options could have been one of those things. Let's get to predictions. Steve Friend, go.
I'm hoping that I'm going to be wrong on this one, but I've seen the Antifa rioters, anti-ICE protesters out there with the slung long guns. I think as the weather heats up and we're going to have a shooting incident, and that will put Donald Trump in a position like he was after the Vegas shooting, where he's going to have to come out either to pull back on deportation or to come out with anti-gun legislation. And his default setting as a New Yorker Democrat in the 90s will be to come out with something like a move against the Second Amendment.
Yeah, that's a death knell if that happens. I mean, that if he were to do that, take whatever you think, however many seats the Democrats you think are winning next in November, and just double it at that point. That's self-immolation. That cannot happen. So pray that Steve is wrong about that. Todd, go.
Guinness Book of World Records needs to be on the ready because the greatest assembly of losers in all of history is going to take place on June 5th, the opening night of Masters of the Universe.
Aaron, go ahead. Go ahead, Aaron.
I think there is no less than a 65 to 75% chance that there are serious riots across the country again this summer. I mean, I'm seeing people, former colleagues of mine at let's just call it Christian-aligned institutions, just falling, hyperventilating for the ICE kidnapped a 5-year-old in Minneapolis narrative that they've got going on right now. So the environment is ripe for self-loathing evangelicals across the country and the suburbs to turn a blind eye while their cities get burned down again.
I've got
Happy Friday, by the way.
Yeah, that was. You guys are. Wow.
But you can avoid that all, Aaron, by going to see Masters of the Universe.
Hey,
that's what's so great.
I mean, the amount of hot and married date nights that are going to occur in this audience after this first hour is just truly remarkable. I've got a long distance dedication to Todd, all the way from D.C. With my prediction. I'm going to predict for the first time since 2012, both road teams win conference championship games in the NFL playoffs. That's my prediction, just for Todd. Just for Todd. Steve Friend, good to see you as always, my friend. God bless you, brother. All right, we'll take a quick break, come back. It'll be Feedback Friday next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm here one more hour from our nation's capital in D.C., then hopefully heading home to beat that winter storm. Todd and Aaron McIntyre, they're there hunkering down, awaiting it. Guys, is there any update, by the way, in terms of precip, what we're getting there? Do we know? Is it just going to be, Arctic cold? Do we know yet?
It's going to be zero. Here's what's going to happen, though, because we all know how interconnected the nation's air traffic is. You're not making it home today. Sorry.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry. Because of that, and also we know your luck with the American airline industry as well. So hey, you should be thanking me. I'm helping you mentally prepare for this inevitability.
I did as I arrived in D.C. I did walk right past the gate where we did that overnight show last April, by the way. So now I know how the audience feels after that last hour. So thank you for that. Let us know what you think about what we think, I guess. Steve@stevedeace.com is the email address. DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And then finally, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to our new YouTube channel. You can subscribe there at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then finally, if you are a podcast aficionado, thank you very much. You guys are the biggest part of our audience. If you've yet to do so, please hit subscribe or on Apple iTunes follow so that you know for sure every time we do one of these new episodes, it is right there in your feed every single time. And then you can also, if you haven't done this, but tens of thousands of you have, so thank you, leave us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. Those help the show to grow as well as our egos, and we need that. This part of the show brought to you by Masa Chips. At some point, most of us realize we don't actually need to overhaul our entire lives to feel better. We just need to stop making the easy stuff worse than it has to be, and that's why you want to check out Masa Chips. They're not diet chips. They're definitely not pretending to be something they're not. They're just made with real food. And you can tell the difference immediately. What surprised me after eating them wasn't just how good they tasted, but how full you get. You really cannot. I know they look like smaller bags, but this is real food. And so your body's going to be full faster. You're not going to sit down there and just put like a half a bag away like you do one of the big brand chips. They then kind of make you feel like heavy and sluggish afterwards. All right. And then their cousins, the Vandy Crisps, are spectacular. With the beef tallow, you definitely want to check those out, right? You can get those both, by the way, by going to masachips.com, M-A-S-A, masachips.com/Deace, masachips.com/Deace. Use the code Deace for 25% off your first order, all right? That's code Deace for 25% off your first order at masachips.com/Deace. That's masachips.com/Deace or vandycrisps.com/Deace. You can go there too and use the promo code Deace. All right, gentlemen, you all ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
Well, let's go.
All right, let's start here with Chad. Chad writes, I know you guys have a large LDS audience and would appreciate you getting the word out on this. Next week, BYU has invited Francis Collins to speak at a campus-wide forum. For decades, every Tuesday morning, the entire BYU campus shuts down so that every student can attend a campus-wide devotional or forum. Usually leaders of our church or BYU administration give spiritual messages, and sometimes professors or others are invited to give a forum. Needless to say, I am appalled that this is the forum they're giving. I've done what I can to make my voice heard to the administration. Unfortunately, the BYU administration has been infiltrated with a lot of lefties. I could expand on the many ways it has deteriorated since I graduated 20 years ago. As another example, last year they invited David French to speak at a campus-wide forum. They would never invite any real conservative who actually shares the same values as our church. Whatever you can do to make this known to your LDS audience would be appreciated so that they can make their voices heard as well. Thanks for all your hard work. Again, that's from Chad. And listen, I mean, some of the most hardcore people we have on our side are the LDS voters, and this is the contagion of postmodernism. Regardless of any of our philosophical or theological differences, since we are aligned on holding the line on some form of sane morality in the culture, the locust of deconstruction via postmodernism comes for us all. And unfortunately, Aaron, you and I could tell stories. It's not that much different than what goes on a lot of so-called Christian campuses that are evangelical in nature and sola scriptura.
Correct.
They bring these kinds of guys on campus at the exact same time. Todd's got an entire wing of the Catholic Church known as Jesuits that's essentially just behaves this way on a consistent basis. I mean, this is Legion in America right now. And there isn't a theological tribe, guys, that's immune to this, unfortunately. So hope we got the word out and enough people can join Chad in raising a stink. But I mean, we Aaron, on our side, we had evangelical leaders like Ed Stetzer and others promoting this guy to the brethren and his deadly information. How many believers do you think died or were injured because of the information that Ed Stetzer gave a platform to guys like this, Francis Collins, to espouse and and gave him credibility, and yet no repentance, because that's part and parcel, of course, with the Christian life, is no repentance for getting anything wrong whatsoever and just acting like it never happened and moving on.
One is too many. I would like to interject this as well. This was news that came yesterday. The Trump administration is ending funding for, I believe it's dead baby body parts to be studied, used for science, whatever witch doctors term du jour you want to use there. This has everything to do with Francis Collins because his NIH, you'll recall that study. Correct. I think it was out of the University of Pennsylvania. This broke in 2020 or 2021. It was revealed that NIH through Fauci's organization NIAID or NIAID, I think it is what it is. They were funding this use of dead baby body parts for science. The Trump administration is ending that practice as well. So just an aside, I just thought of this yesterday. That news broke.
This is why I've cautioned you all along, RFK Jr., Maha, but how deep does that go? Not very deep. And it's largely because of the right. Because there's all kinds of people who still believe in all this kind of magical thinking. COVID, the only thing they learned from COVID is that, thank God we live in the 21st century where the experts could save us. They have no idea what a villain Francis Collins is. They're triple jabbed a couple of times. And which is why I only gave B's about things, which is why I pointed out Sonny Hostin, because Sonny Hostin's thinking, ESPN, Disney, propaganda everywhere. At BYU, there's all kinds of Sonny Hostins saying Sonny Hostin things to make you believe that we're the cool kids. Look who's coming, Francis Collins. Yeah, we don't deserve A's. No.
I think this is actually, and Aaron, what you just added to it there with the expansion of what's traditionally known as the Mexico City policy, it goes right in line with what I was trying to say in response to what you guys laid out last hour during the Deace Group. Trump is taking the traditional Mexico City policy, which is we're not going to fund abortions overseas with U.S. dollars. And he's expanding it now. I mean, now we're going to go into we're not going to fund the various industries that are the reason why we have abortions. We're being honest. It's a demonic death cult. But two, and this is why you can't ever get, late term and partial birth abortion truly banned. It's because the more developed the child is in the womb, the more valuable that tissue and those cells are for research. I mean, straight out of, again, Island of Dr. Moreau, Joseph Goebbels kind of stuff. Just straight up, utilitarian, Malthusian ethics. And so this is an example of, this is more right-wing than we've ever been before. This is an example of the Trump administration taking a step no one else on our side has ever taken before, right? Like Aaron, you pointed out, you've only seen one other Republican president, right? So this is, again, where they are more right than we've ever been before. But Todd, everything you just said is also correct. We're more right than we've ever been before. But we're still not we're not still anywhere close to where we need to be whatsoever. And I just think for us as Gen Xers, you're just going to have to, we have to be the generation that holds the line. We have to be the generation that finishes well, that eats all the crap sandwiches, man. And just accepts, if we don't do that, if we pout, if we run away, if we give up, then it's over for our kids and grandkids. That we cannot black, hole sun this, blow up the outside world this. We can't grunge our way out of this, okay? That we're going to have to actually stand in the gap as a generation and stand in the gap and say, voting for these people sucks. And I hate myself every time I do it. But I don't hate myself nearly as much as I love the people I'm doing it for. Because here's the thing. If we do those things, and I have been, if you've listened to this show for a long time, I have been the send a message guy in the past. I've done it actually several times. I didn't vote for a Republican presidential nominee from 2004 until 2020. I voted Constitution Party in all those other elections. So I get it, okay? I get it. But now we have evidence, and I cannot ignore evidence in front of me. We have Colorado, Minnesota, and now Virginia. All right, we're dealing we're living in a duopoly country. We are. It's the facts. And one half of that duopoly is a demonic construct. Facts. When they gain any power at all, they immediately move to make it California overnight. That's what's happening to Virginia right now. Ran into a couple at Seth Gruber's event that I was speaking at yesterday, Life or Death Con. They have lived in Virginia and worked in the Beltway all their lives. And she was telling me she went home last night and her husband just looked at her and said, after seeing what's happened in Virginia for 1 week, they said, we're going to probably have to move. It's just the speed they're moving at here. I don't see how. And it just makes it look like Glenn Youngkin was never even governor. Glenn Youngkin didn't really do anything at all to move the ball to the right. But for 4 years, he stopped it from moving to the left. He was just a speed bump. Nothing more, nothing less. And so our job, man, it's a crappy gig. Not going to lie. But see, I think, I can look back now and see the way I was raised and how it uniquely prepared me for what God was going to call me to do now. And then if I had grown up in a really balanced and loving and supporting home, I probably couldn't do this, or at least not nearly to the level I'm capable of now without those life experiences, giving me a little bit more callousness to human approval than most human beings require without becoming sociopaths, frankly. Likewise, this is why we listen to all that grunge, guys. All right, this is why we were the cynical generation, to prepare us for this. And what are we prepared for as Gen Xers? We are going to inhale crap sandwiches, man. Line them up. And we're going to eat them all. Every last one. And it's going to suck. And I'm just telling you that. Right? It's going to suck. But we're going to do it because the people we care about that we're doing it for, our kids and grandkids, we love them more than we hate the alternative of not doing it. So that's why we're going to do it. That's just where we are. I don't see another path minus providential levels of awakening revival. Let's move on. This is from Pete. Not sure how often you guys read your emails, and I'm sure you guys get a ton, but I just want to say thank you guys for your show this week. I was feeling pretty negative and fed up the past several days with recent events. And then I listened, for example, to you and Chip. You guys helped to remind me how important the upcoming midterm is. I'm back in for all the reasons you guys are articulating this week. Sometimes we just need a vocal reminder of what we need to do and why we have to stay strong. What can a disabled 57-year-old guy in a wheelchair with MS living in the hellhole blue state of Illinois do to help? I don't think letters to my representatives and senators will matter. I've made my positions to them clear in past letters before and never even got a response or acknowledgement that they got them. Our plan is to move to a red state once my wife retires here in just a couple of years. What sort of things can I do to help red state candidates from where I am? You guys know I love It's a Wonderful Life, right? You guys know that's one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
And you guys remember the scene when they have the bank run during the Depression? You guys remember that scene?
Yes.
Yep.
And George and his wife, Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed are about to go off on their honeymoon. And all the money that George has saved all these years, not going to college and working the savings and loan for his old man that he stashed away, that he was going to use on his world travels that he always wanted to do, they're now going to do it on the honeymoon of a lifetime, right? And as they're heading to catch the ship, the bank run begins. And so they go into the Bailey Savings and Loan and they try to keep it alive, and everybody wants to take their money out because they think the thing's going to go under, right? And there's a poor woman that walks up to him, and George is trying to get everybody to just take what they need for now. Not take all their money out, but just take what they need for now. And this woman walks up, and it's very clear she's poor already, struggling already. And she walks up and she feels terrible, all right, that she's going to ask for this. And she asked for something like $2 or something. which was, still a lot of money back then, nothing to us today. And do you remember George's reaction to this? He's in this really high, stressful situation, and maybe the whole town gets turned over to Potter. The whole town goes bankrupt. His family legacy goes under, and he just, and this woman's already suffering as it is, and she's already, and she stands up and she's willing to suffer more. You guys remember his reaction to her? Gives her a big, warm hug and just a big brother kiss on the cheek. And I want to tell you something, Pete. That's kind of my reaction to your note, and why I wanted to share it with the audience. Because we get all kinds of feedback saying, essentially, why won't you just give me Chuckle Hut, Own the Libs content like everybody else does? Why are there talking points? Why are there actionable items? Why do we have to do stuff? Why do we just have to not consume? Why are you telling us we probably can't stay in our blue state? And then here's a guy who's 57, disabled, with MS, already planning on getting out as soon as he possibly can, as soon as the situation will allow. He keeps bugging politicians he knows are ignoring him. And he sends us a letter saying, what more can I do? How can I have an influence in places I don't even live and may never? And Pete, I just want to run up, man, and just give you a huge hug, brother. Here's what you can do, Pete. You keep the same spirit that you have right now all the way to the end of your race. Because if we had millions more Petes doing what he can while being disabled, asking if he can do more. If we had millions more Petes, we wouldn't be in this mess right now. So Pete, here's what you can do, man. Just keep doing what you're doing and setting the example, brother. Thank you. Appreciate you. Ed Croteau writes, and I want you guys to pay particular attention to what he suggests at the end, and I want us to discuss it, okay? He says, I'm a big fan, and I'm very frustrated and sick and tired of hearing your message about churches actually preaching the Bible and Christians getting engaged, because, of course, you guys are right. So I'm appealing to you guys to start a movement of men like me who are passionate to train our young men on biblical truth and how to know what they believe and why they believe it. I started a ministry called FSE University, which stands for Faith, Substance, and Evidence. And it's modeled after Hebrews 11:1. All right, faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things unseen. That's what he's talking about. You can check out my ministry, and he gave the website, and I think I forgot to include it. Sorry about that, guys. FSE.life is where you guys want to go if you want to check out what Ed is doing. FSE.life, FSE.life. So here's the ending part, okay? Ed says he's a 67-year-old lay pastor who's been debating, doing Q&As at universities, and teaching on the superiority of the Christian worldview for many years. And he says, I cannot find a lot of churches interested in getting involved in this kind of ministry. So here's my suggestion for you guys. Start a weekly Zoom Bible study men's gathering targeting men of all ages. 1 hour a week, you would draw a large group of men. So, I am teaching the 7 deadly worldviews at my home church. I think it starts March 31 and will end sometime around the middle of May. What do you guys, I'm already working like 70-hour weeks, and I try to get a margin of an hour or two at night to chill out, okay? So I don't lose my mind. All right, but I'm intrigued by this idea. Tuesday nights are my wife's late night with her therapy practice, her counseling practice. And so that's when I'll be teaching the 7 deadly worldviews at our home church here in town. But when that ends in the middle of May, what do you guys think about doing a national Zoom call for men this summer on Tuesday nights, going through the book of Nehemiah. Just as an example. What are your thoughts on that? Aaron, you know more about the technology than I do. I mean, how many people can log on to a Zoom call? I don't know the answers to those kinds of questions. What do you think?
It'd be pretty easy. I'd have to check our plan, but I think we already have a pretty beefy plan. I could have probably used a different qualifier than beefy. We have a pretty large plan that we have to use. Robust. Thank you.
Yes,
a robust plan that we already use for Zoom, but it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be, even if we had to upgrade plans, it wouldn't be anything from a technological side.
Like how many men could log on?
Well, I can look that up. Let me see.
Yeah, look that up. Well, he's looking that up, Todd. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm not against it in principle, but I do think you have to be, and we would have to be honest about this in a way that you have to be honest about what you confronted with. A lot of churches just aren't even interested because they like the feng shui that they have. And a lot of any ministry that anybody of sincerity, and we believe you're sincere, is trying to do must be very comfortable with idol smashing. And that's one of the biggest areas where, there's just a lot of no-go zones that a lot of churches and a lot of men have. And they are absolutely convinced they can be ultimately sincere by doing something like this while having multiple of their own private Idahos over here. And I'm just going to tell you that's not going to work. So because I have no idea, and maybe Aaron's just going to answer the technology end, I think it's worth finding out. But I'm also saying prepare to be disappointed.
So currently, our current plan allows for a number. I think either of you would be able to guess. It's a pretty significant Old Testament number as it pertains to men. 300.
300?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm kind of think we're going to need more than that. Like, what's the most that could get on a Zoom? What's the most that Zoom possibly allows if we did this?
I think I've seen upwards of. So that's just for a meeting. We could do 5,000. That's one thing that I'm seeing.
We're getting closer to probably what I think
that's
a
webinar. Let me see how much that. Yeah.
Well, for example, about what I'm talking about, picture how this goes with a lot of the different factions. I know we're specifically talking about Nehemiah, but you never know what thread you're pulling on, that all of a sudden it is existential, and you have basically representatives of the multiple tribes that agree on like 90 to 95% of cultural issues, but it is warring time when you bring up the Jews or something like that. This isn't worth doing unless everybody's ready for that and taking scalps, because quite frankly, there's scalps to take.
So if we did a 5,000 participant meeting or webinar, it's $2,500 a month.
Okay. So, I'm pretty confident I could find us a sponsor for something like that. And you want to do a scalp taking. That's why I selected Nehemiah. It's just I can't remember. It's 13 or 14 chapters. It's just it's a chapter by chapter scalp taking. That's all that it is. All right. It's probably my favorite book in the Old Testament. But I want us to think about this and consider doing something like this over the summer, maybe. And might be worthwhile. And just open it up to men. And is it recorded? And then could we host it somewhere for people that couldn't log on, or if it's too full, or they want to share it with their buddies around the country?
Are you wanting
Can that be done too?
Audience participation?
Yes and no. Yes, but I don't want it to be a driver. Maybe if there's questions or something that want to get answered.
We just record it natively in the studio. It would look a lot like this. I assume we would come into the studio. It would look a lot like this, except a lot of people would be watching. We wouldn't even have to do We wouldn't even have to do Zoom. We could do a live stream for free.
Mm-hmm.
That's, in fact, I think that's what we should do. Just to open it up for anybody.
Or maybe a Twitter space, an X space.
Yep, we could do that. We could do it on Facebook. We could do it on YouTube if we wanted to.
Okay.
We've got it set up now to where we could do that easily.
No, listen, we're all Jamaicans here of some degree. All right. So I'm not trying to give any more another job, man, but I think it is an idea. And that would be a window of time that I would have open. And I don't have a lot of open windows of time, but that would be one. Is Tuesday nights in the summertime. I think I could make that work. Let's discuss it. We'll table it. All right. But you at least, prick the conscience a little bit and tapped on our craniums. We're going to think about it. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Let's go to Corey next. He says, I've ran from the die daily messages many times in recent decades. It's one of the toughest things that a growing Christian will ever do. I'm done throwing in the towel in this regard. Thank you guys for delivering the tough love message. Most pastors, spiritual leaders, and so forth will not deliver that. The first 2 episodes you guys had at the beginning of the new year on your program were riveting and shook me to the core. When you guys said die daily with that penetrating Christopher Walken stare into the camera, it was like you guys just spoke right to me. I was frozen in place. Thank you guys. Biggest God moment of my life. That's from Corey.
Awesome.
And go ahead, Corey. Were you going to say something there, Todd? I'm sorry.
I just said awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Corey. That was awesome. And again, men have to be talked to differently. We're not women. Men have to be talked to differently. A lot of times you'll see the greatest coaches in sports, they'll say stuff like, you coach them hard and then you love them harder. Right? Men have to be pushed to places they don't think they can go or even want to go naturally. And then they need to be greatly rewarded when they do so. All right? And men have to be provoked. You will often, it's not very often you'll get the best out of a man by soft pedaling something. Now, it doesn't have to be, you are the lowest form of life on earth, boot camp, all right? But, I'm a negative reinforcement guy. If you tell me I did something that isn't any good, then I am going to proceed to want to make it the absolute best it could possibly be. You tell me I cannot do something, I will be like, I'm going to do it just out of spite of you. All right. Other people are more positive reinforcement. Doesn't mean they're weaker. They're just different. Right. But that person still needs to be challenged. Hey, I'm telling you can do that. You have to do this because I know that you can do it. If I didn't know you could go there, if I didn't know you could do it, I wouldn't be demanding this of you, right? And there's all kinds of badass guys that are one of those 2 types, all right? But all men need to be provoked, whether it is from a positive reinforcement standpoint or a negative reinforcement standpoint. Now, it just so happens that the guys who do most of the talking on this show, particularly this one here, tend to operate from a negative reinforcement standpoint. Maybe we should add another voice, all right, that maybe just to balance the 3 of us out, okay? But a man has to be provoked, has to be challenged to rise to the challenge. He will not do it off of, go get him, Skippy. He won't do it. It won't happen. We're not women. We're not like you. And they have to be talked to differently. All right, when we come back, more of Feedback Friday here in a moment. Stay tuned.
The Steve Deace Show.
All right, back here on the Steve Deace Show one last time here from our nation's capital. At least that's where I am. Hopefully I'm going to be where Todd and Aaron are in a matter of hours. They're back home in Des Moines. We're brought to you by our friends over at Chirp. Every January we're setting those goals. And a lot of times it is be more active, get healthier. And let's be honest, though, this is about the time of the month where we start wavering on those goals. One of the main reasons why, if you're getting active again or trying to stay active as you get older, soreness, pain. That's where our friends at Chirp come in. I'm just telling you, guys, as someone that's been able to lose a lot of weight and maintain an active lifestyle well into my 50s now and traveling more than ever before, you have got to have preventative health as a part of your repertoire, and some of the kinds of devices you need: trigger point rollouts, mini power massagers, the Chirp Contour. You can't really travel with that, but it's great for when you get home to travel. All right, decompression massage table, professional grade relief with spinal decompression, soothing massage, relaxing heat to ease pressure. That's a great way to reset when you get back from the road. I mean, these are the kinds of things you want to have at your disposal so that this is the year you keep those resolutions, all right, and see them through. Not to mention, it's just good for your overall health. Anyway, all right, so here's what you want to do. Go to gochirp.com/Steve. GoChirp, CHIRP, like a birdie chirp. GoChirp.com/Steve. Check out their full menu of items they have available right now at gochirp.com/Steve. All right, you guys want to continue on here with some Feedback Friday?
What do we got?
Let's do so with Jason Gross, who says, I'm a 36-year-old blind gentleman living in the great state of Texas. As a conservative Catholic, your show is one of the few that resonates with me due to the biblical nature of your content. I've been listening faithfully since the start of this scandemic. It was very encouraging to hear Jeremiah Johnston boldly defending the truth of the gospel from Davos. However, even with my lack of physical sight, pardon me, I couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between the true Christian courage of Jeremiah and the outright weakness of so-called Christian men at the church in Minneapolis. To put it simply, our nation needs more Jeremiah Johnstons and way less passive men who allow communists to disrupt worship services and threaten the lives of women and children. If our country is to have revival, we must have consequences for this type of evil. Keep up the awesome work of bringing the light of truth into the darkness. Again, that's from Jason, who's blind, but guys, I kind of think he sees.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Pretty 2020, in fact, if you ask me.
We've got guys in wheelchairs and who can't see, just wishing, begging, show me where to go, dying to get in the fight more deeply, while everybody else who doesn't have those real excuses is constantly giving all kinds of excuses. Well, you have to understand, I'm the breadwinner, so that means I have to have an anonymous account and can't really do anything. There's a theme here, and either we get it or our kids get crushed under the boot, just like is clearly happening in Virginia, and which is a template for what will happen in Washington, D.C. These are the terms. So you guys don't have these real excuses like the blind guys and the guys in the wheelchairs do, but you're pretending that you have better ones and more of them, and that's pathetic.
I was kind of somewhere in between Todd's initial reaction on Monday morning and a comment you made in passing last hour, Steve, about having grace, because they were ambushed, and what these commies did in this church was evil. That was absolutely evil. But after hearing that note, I'm kind of more in the line of nobody. I mean, there was a couple of young men, looked like young men, who confronted that DeWoke farmer, loser-looking guy who was arrested by the Department of Justice yesterday. There were a couple of it that tried to approach him, but really, after being asked to leave and not leaving, you are well within your rights legally in most places, I have to believe, to use whatever non-lethal means necessary to remove people who are trespassing from your place of worship. And nobody attempted to do that. And it wasn't like anybody even got up to the line to do it and just kind of got scared and walked away.
Right.
Nobody did it, period. Hearing this note from somebody who wasn't even able to see all of that, it's simultaneously depressing, and I think it underscores just the posture of the median Christian male in this country.
Yeah.
It's just not going to cut it. Steve, you're cutting in and out, your video is, so Todd and I might talk a little bit if you want to drop and reconnect.
This is my point, why I only...
You got it. We'll do.
Why I only give a B on things, because until I'm confident we have a real existential understanding of what's at stake and what we're prepared to do as men, and not just leaving it to organizations called Moms for Liberty or My Daughters in Iowa to show up and rally the troops when the trannies are taking over their sports. We are very, very weak. We are very, very distracted. And that doesn't make us feel bad at all. We aren't ashamed of it. We resent being reminded as Christian men that we are called to way, way more than this. And I get that level of pushback all the time. But no, being a man is not a leisure pursuit.
Amen. And I think we have Steve back. Steve, are you back?
How do I look and sound, guys? Because it was choppy on my end, too.
Yeah, better.
How are we doing?
Good.
All right. Aaron, you brought up an incredible point there, man, right before my signal went wanky. Because, I mean, wow. All of the men in that church, and not one of them acted instinctively and went overboard, right? Not one of them did. Not one of them did. Not one. That's not good. Okay. I hadn't even thought about that angle. All right.
This is why
that is not good.
This is why I said when Bob was on the show on Monday, eventually you are, if you're not training your congregations for what exactly to do, and I'm not even talking about the instinct, which should be there and you'd hope would be there. If you don't train your congregation on what to do, or at least a few men in your congregation on what to do in these types of scenarios, eventually one of these guys, you're going to run into a guy who goes overboard. And it's likely going to be, the guy who's MAGA, maybe not a Christian, the non-Christian MAGA, who's trying to get his life turned around, or he's actually interested in things of faith for the first time. He doesn't look like any of the rest of the congregants in that congregation, and he's just acting on it's going to be one of those guys. And I'm not casting aspersions. We've been spending the entire week talking about, I wish some of the Christian men or the men who have been in the church for a while acted a little bit more like the typical MAGA family at a Trump rally. We've been talking about that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying eventually you're going to run into a guy who shows no restraint whatsoever for whatever reason, and people are going to get hurt. And it'd be nice to avoid that. Even if the commies maybe deserve it in that, the law of the jungle in that scenario, I'm just saying if we can avoid that, if we can avoid somebody getting killed or seriously maimed, that would be better, even if the person getting maimed might deserve it.
The real issue isn't, though, what happens when we're ambushed like that. That's challenging no matter what. But it becomes way more challenging because we aren't men the other 99% of the time either. And that's why whether we do that Zoom you're talking about or anything else, unless we're really prepared to get really real about what our idols are and how weak we are on a daily basis and how we just accept that and have no plans on changing, there's really not much of a point of furthering the conversation, because that's what it's going to take.
Lou Holtz used to say, you can't have a championship football team if there's not a couple guys in that locker room you're not sure about, right? And you guys, what's the meme I share every Christmas, guys? What's my favorite Christmas meme? You remember?
Your favorite?
You guys got to remember my favorite Christmas meme I shared every year.
You mean Santa Claus?
The St. Nicholas one.
Yeah, it's the St. Nicholas one, yeah.
And so St. Nicholas was one of the bishops that was called to the Council of Nicaea. And I always get Marcion and Arius mixed up, the two great heretics of antiquity. Which one, Todd, was at Nicaea? Which one did they hear of? Do you remember?
I say Arius.
I can't ever remember. What's that?
Arius, thank you. And Arius is just given a platform, man, in front of the bishops just to blather on and on and on. And Nick ain't having it, man. All right. Nick's heard enough. Okay. And now reports differ. Did he just cold cock Arius? Did he just kind of slap him, which was considered in the ancient world a sign of, disrespect and emasculation of a fellow man? Did he go full Nehemiah and just whip the dude's behind? I mean, the accounts differ and probably have been lost into legend. And if we're probably, truly it went back in the DeLorean and saw the event, it would probably be, some form of a demeaning slap meant to put a man in his emasculated place in the ancient world. But whatever form of the five-fold ministry of the right hand of fellowship Arius received, he did receive such fellowship. He did receive it nevertheless. And this guy that gave all the presents to the kids, that inspired one of the greatest legends in the history of the human species.
You know, and Aaron, man, you are blowing my mind, brother. I don't know that I can move on from this point. It's because you mentioned something I didn't pick up on that I can see now. We should have seen it from the beginning. Nobody had an unrestrained masculine instinct and overreacted. Nobody on our side did. Nobody did. Nobody. The elders had to grab a guy and say, hey, man, hey, we get it. We respect the instinct. All right, but hey, you're going too far. That's not how we do things here in Christ Church. Nobody did that, guys. Nobody did that. Women and children are running away. And nobody did that. Holy crap. That's the most depressing thing I've heard so far in 2026.
Okay, well, then let's ask why. And answer honestly, why? What are those men addicted to on a daily basis when no one's invading their churches? What are they addicted to? We have to answer that.
Are you saying that essentially with the guy with the F Trump hat, the knuckle dragger there guy, that what he is saying is true, not from the perspective that he's saying it, of course, not from his own premise.
Yeah.
But they are soft on all the various things that he was pointing out in their church. He was right, just from he's right from the wrong premise. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, he was being correct.
Yes.
From even the opposite.
On June 5th, on June 5th, they're going to be at the He-Man movie, night one. Yes.
You want a little story time from the Gopher State? So where did this city's church, where is this? It's in St. Paul, right? In smack dab in the middle of the Twin Cities, one of the 8 counties that voted for Kamala Harris in Minnesota. And we've often said, you go just an hour north of the Twin Cities, it's like Alabama. If you want to find our point on that, I think I brought this up before. A close buddy of mine from college, he lives up about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of the Twin Cities, serves in his church, is in leadership in his church. At one point, I don't know if he still is or not, he was involved with the youth group, kind of, I think, the high school youth ministry. Mm-hmm. And I laugh a bit. I laugh at this story to give you an indication of the completely different cultures. One time he had to have a word with one of his high schoolers, and I think he told me this high schooler was black. Young man, because he came to church in an F. Joe Biden t-shirt one night.
Yeah.
Just totally different cultures from one geographic area, 2 hours to the north in another. Just completely, utterly different. So that just that underscores not only the different cultures, but I just think the generations as well. There's one that's far more aggressive and needs to be channeled in a righteous direction, and there's one that's not doing any channeling. It's just kind of being channeled down the drain. That's kind of what I see.
Too much of Christianity, the C.S. Lewis, Always Winter, Never Christmas, talking about Narnia and the White Witch. Too much of modern Christianity is always Christmas, never Easter.
Yeah.
It's always a baby in a manger. It's never the king of the universe rolling a stone away and walking out with nail-scarred hands and saying, how you like me now? It's never that guy. It's always Christmas, never Easter. Always Christmas, never Easter. It's always the first coming. It's never the second one. With the sword in his mouth and a robe dipped in blood. It's never that good. It's never that coming. It's always the babe in a manger that we sing songs to.
And when it gets like this, throughout the history of God and God's people, prophets come out and smack people around and tell them things that they don't want to hear.
Correct.
Well,
kind of feels like we're in that era right now.
We're not serious unless we're hearing a lot of things we don't want to hear.
Let's close with this note from Matthew McGlynn, who says, I was raised in the small southern Illinois town of Carbondale. It's a college town, by the way. Current population of the town is around 21,000. Since 2022, 3 abortion clinics have opened. It was recently featured in a New York Times article stating a seismic shift in access to abortions. This past year, an alarming number of 11,000 babies were murdered in Carbondale, Illinois. The majority of the vehicles at these clinics are driving from out of state. There's been a very lackluster response from local churches to address the problem, a very lackluster lackluster response from local churches to address the problem. A very lackluster response from local churches to address the problem. Maybe you've heard here, there's a very lackluster response from local churches to address the problem. And again, I might add, there's been a very lackluster response from local churches to address the problem, because it keeps happening over and over again that there's a very lackluster response from local churches to address the problem. And one more time for the folks in the back, it's a very lackluster response from local churches to address the problem. Matthew says, my wife and I currently reside in a nearby town. We're heartbroken to see what has happened. I'm reaching out to you to bring awareness and exposure to this demonic atrocity. Is it happening in other college towns? There's a local ministry in Carbondale. It's called Gospel for Life. They're a full-time ministry who stands at the clinics dedicated to providing alternatives supporting the sanctity of life. Thank you for giving them a shout out and some time and consideration. God bless you guys for your dedication to this cause. So shout out to Gospel for Life there, the local ministry in Carbondale, and hopefully there's one of those in every single college town right now. But I don't know if you heard or not, there's been a very lackluster response from local churches to address the problem.
Listen, let's face it, most churches are just social clubs and psychological boxes that even conservatives check just to make sure that they're, me and God, we done here? We got this. Now I'm going to go off and do my thing. I mean, it's the brutal honesty is that the churches aren't. That's it.
Churches aren't.
Go ahead, Aaron. I'll give you the last word. You go ahead.
What a way to end the program, but it's accurate. If you want to ask, are churches capable of fill in the blank? The answer is usually what Todd just said. Churches aren't. And that's a dour way to end this, but I think it's an appropriate way given how we started the week as well.
I want to thank everybody, you guys, for bearing with me here during a unique schedule to get out here and speak at Seth's event. And thank everybody at Life or Death Con. Fantastic event here in D.C. at Union Station yesterday. Great crowd, a lot of inspiring words. I came away fired up as well. So thank you guys for all of that. Hopefully, pray we get home safely with this weather front. You guys have a great weekend. Try to stay warm. Go hard. Romans 8:28.